Hi, welcome to Help Me Help Mama livecast. Doug and Cindy here, and we've got your questions today. Thanks for joining us. Uh, if you would, just type any questions you got in the comment box below. And if you know of a friend or relative or neighbor that could benefit from this information, please share this live cast with them so they can watch it too. And for those of you that are watching it later on in the day and are not watching it live, just type your comments in below and we'll get them on a subsequent live cast. But thanks for being here today. So we got a bunch of questions that people have submitted. Do you have one to start with, Cindy?
Yeah, I like this one right here. What can I do to improve the quality, not quantity, of life? I was just looking at some of the things that I had written that were in Mom's notebook, so that if I wasn't there, um, whoever was there with her would make sure that they did things like she wanted them or needed them done. And just looking through this, it amazes me. Um, like when she watched TV, made a note here that you had to elevate her legs because of her heart, and she liked to sit in the recliner, and we used a Roho cushion, which looks like an egg carton, but it's real soft, and that helps to prevent sores on the backside. Plus, it's really comfortable. And I said it, if she complained of being sore, how to adjust how she was setting, so that she would be more comfortable. I think it's the little things. Put yourself in their position. What would make you comfortable? What would make you feel happy or excited? Or, for example, like if she liked to watch TV, she liked to watch anything that, as long as she could write down information about it. So if it was like, if they were selling something, she'd write down the phone numbers and the price and what the item was. Um, and it was just things like that. What do they enjoy?
And we've got so many here, so we'll just do a few of them today. What in the on the same question, what can I do to improve the quality, not quantity of life? You know, one thing is to just visit with your parent if they still have the capacity to talk. And we do life care plans sometimes where we meet with families, um, and just talk. What does your mom want down the road if she is not able to care for herself? And these are not easy conversations to have, but just simply talking about it helps a lot. Especially the very difficult things like you know last wishes, funeral planning, stuff like that. That's something that a lot of people just don't talk about, should talk about, and get that set up in advance because that's very important.
And I think that's a mindset. You, instead of looking at it as death, look at it as a celebration of their life. Because you don't want to miss out on any of the little things. You don't want to have to um, pick out the clothes like the day you're going to the funeral home. It's not good. And sometimes it's a one-sided conversation, like Doug was saying. If they don't have the capacity or can't really converse, sometimes it's a one-sided conversation that you talking to them. But from everything that I've studied here, I understand that they hear you. May not be able to make all the connections to understand exactly what you're saying and process it, but they do hear you pretty much until the end, so that you need to talk to them in a good voice, in a caring voice, and a loving voice. Tell them that you love them. And if it's about making the last arrangement, say, "Mama, I think this is what you'd like. You always liked the color blue, so we're gonna go with this blue," and pretend maybe that they're telling you and confirming that what you think is right, and get it done.
Here's another question. Is there a list of services and providers available? Yes. Different lists in different ways in different areas of the country. Um, some places we for example, we were just last weekend when we spoke at the dementia conference at UAMS. Right by the elevator, there was a rack of senior directories available that had, different providers in the area, and I've seen them in various parts of the country. So just look at maybe clinics that serve seniors, hospitals. Some assisted livings or nursing homes have those.
And usually, when you go to the doctor, they have, maybe not in the immediate reception room, but somewhere in the clinic is usually a rack of pamphlets that talk about the different service providers. And it's good to get those and read them so you can compare apples to apples and not apples to oranges. Different service providers will offer different services, even though they're in the same category. For example, in-home non-medical, and the different ones, like if they're a franchise, that they may provide slightly different care, different services than the ones that are not franchised. So those are just things you have to collect the information and look at. And two, it depends upon your diagnosis. For example, if Doug mentioned the Alzheimer's Association, if you have a diagnosis of dementia, they have a plethora of information. So if you have other specific diagnosis, you may be able to get information about that specific diagnosis and what to expect in the future with that, so that'll help you plan and prepare for the future for your loved one.
And just ask around. I mean, if you're a family caregiver for a parent, chances are other family caregivers, and or places where your parent's receiving care, whether it's a doctor's office or adult daycare or something like that. Ask around, who is a good medical equipment provider in this area, who is a good home care provider, who, is a good life care planner. So just ask around, and you'll get some good referrals. So that's always a good way to do it. Why is there such a lack of quality adult daycare facilities? Well, that's, there's not always a lack in every area. In our area, we've got some good ones, and I imagine in your area you do too. Some area, and this seems to be a fairly new thing. It's fairly limited. They've been around for a long time, but there hasn't been a whole bunch of them, at least in our area, and now there's beginning to be more, thank goodness. I know there is one in an area about 50 miles from here in a resort community that is actually sponsored by a church. Some churches have like child care facilities, and this particular one had adult daycare facilities. So,
and there are different payer sources for that too now.
Yeah, there are.
So as like, for example, when some of the Medicaid programs will help pay for that, that helps because they're of the extra payer source. It's not having to come out of pocket, if you qualify for that program.
So you may check with your church or your synagogue or your any other care provider to just ask around. If they don't have a sponsored adult daycare, who do they know? And a lot of times that's a good referral source too.
And they're in different settings. I've seen them in commercial buildings. Doug mentioned the one in the church. We had someone online contact us early on when we first started to Help Me Help Mama. So they had an adult daycare in their home. It's a husband and wife, and that was their business, and they just opened their home up to these seniors.
For those of you who are not familiar with this, adult daycare is very similar to child daycare, where, you remember when you dropped your kids off on the way to work and picked them up on the way back home at night, on the way home from work. Same thing here, and they watch them during the day, keep them engaged as possible. Of course, there is some requirements or some levels of Alzheimer's, certain dementia that's not appropriate for this type of care, but for situations where it is appropriate, this certainly helps and certainly provides some respite for caregivers, and in many cases it just simply allows the family caregiver they got to work, and allows them to continue to keep their job and work while at the same time have a good feeling that mom or dad is being taken care of during the day and receiving the care that they need. Maybe we got time for one more. Yeah.
What are the options when family does not do their part?
Oh, that's a we're actually doing a course now. Registration's closed, but we're actually doing a multi-week course on family planning. We may offer that again sometime in the future, but that's a big topic. Sometimes
it's a struggle.
It's a struggle. Sometimes families don't do their part for whatever reason, and sometimes they just don't want to do anything. Sometimes it's it's very emotional when mom or dad is declining, and I've had different ones that just say we can't handle it. We just can't do it.
And these are adults.
Adults, we cannot handle the stress of seeing mom or dad declining, and some of you watching this would say, "Oh, get over it," or "Give me a break," or whatever, and I understand that. Some of you just feel like they ought to just do it, but who am I to judge? Some of them just honestly cannot do it. It's this, they just cannot make themselves do it. Sometimes they live out of state, and or got jobs that occupy most of their time, but families that want to cooperate and work together can find ways to do it. There's ways to divide the responsibilities, and bottom line, if your family will help, talk about it, and there's a way for everybody to do something to help. And if they won't help, they just won't. Sometimes you can't make them.
If it's not them being there with mama providing day-to-day care, maybe they can do research and help find a sitter so that you can get out once a week for 4 hours a day, and they find the sitter and they pay for the sitter to be there.
Yeah.
There's several different ways to contribute. So
we do appreciate you joining us today, and we're chipping down on these several hundred questions, but keep asking more because that keeps the list replenished, and we want to try to provide some relevant information. So I think that's all we have for today. Please join us tomorrow on Help Me Help Mama livecast, and make sure to type in your questions, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good day.